So the first episode of TUF 31 is officially out. Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler are, of course, the coaches this year. It's got a fun format, at least in my opinion, where we've got veterans versus prospects, which I actually really like because it means, at least for me, there's a lot of faces in there that I know, a lot of prospects that I've maybe heard of, but I haven't maybe seen on the big stage yet. So it seems a formula for something that should be good. Personalities like McGregor and Chandler, a solid roster of potential fighters. Episode one's out. What did you make of it, mate?
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. Conor McGregor is just he's very entertaining, isn't he? So it's like anything that he's involved in is I think is kind of worth a watch. I kind of like I mean, it changes up a little bit. I think it's maybe the vets view prospects, and as you say, it kind of because you can recognize people, it kind of adds a little bit to it. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before that it wasn't the most action-packed episode, but I think on the first episode they're going to have to introduce everyone and stuff like that. But I think it is
Mm.
interesting seeing the very contrasting personalities and styles of McGregor and Chandler. Chandler's like this, like very Americanized, almost like something you'd see in like an American sports film or something like that. And yeah, and McGregor's he's just him, and he so
Mm.
yeah, it'd be interesting the dynamic. I think it's like in terms of like I know I saw on Twitter Chandler was saying all the editors did like McGregor a favor or whatever with the comments, but I was like, he's not cut out for the kind of the quite quick back and forth like McGregor is. But yeah, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it well enough. I the thing is, yeah, it was fine. I watched the whole thing throughout. The best thing I can say is that in comparison to the past two seasons of Tough, the Volk Ortega one and the Nunez Pena one, both of those, I came away from the first episode being like, am I going to carry on watching this? Probably not. I didn't really care for the fighters on there, both the coaches and the prospects. Um, and yeah, there just wasn't any sort of buzz for this. Yeah, obviously you can't help but being a little bit encaptured by the personality of McGregor.
He's
That-
just
That's that's
oh
always been, such a part of his fight career is his personality and the way he comes across on camera, which is brilliant. And like you say, Michael Chandler maybe isn't the best with the back and forth, but he does have a certain he stands out at least. I'll give him that much.
yeah.
You know, he gives a very good promo. But yeah, in terms of witty banter, I think McGregor's probably going to be coming up on top in on that side of things. I really like I said before, the having all the prospects there. We were speaking off camera before, and Roosevelt Roberts was a guy that I was a big fan of in the UFC. He had some rough losses, but only a 4-4 or three, no, what 4-3-1 UFC record, which isn't atrocious. He went
We've seen a
away.
lot worse. We have seen a lot
Absolutely.
worse in the UFC.
Absolutely, yeah. He went away and got back-to-back wins on LXF 7 and Eagle FC 47. So he's done well in his time away. I think, yeah, he obviously got a 7-second KO, so maybe that's why there wasn't as much action as you might
Yeah.
expect from a reality MMA show. But I mean, fair play to him. He knocked the guy out, knocked the prospect out in very quick fashion. Question to you then: do you reckon that's going to be the way this show goes? All the prospects just getting flattened by the veterans.
Well, I think in terms of the vets, there's Jason Knight's on there as well, and I think he's on a different level to Roberts. I think he's like on a, I think Jason. Would you call? I mean, what even is a vet? Just if you fought in the UFC a few times, you're a vet. I suppose 8 fights is a fair amount of time. Um, I think some of the older vets will kind of be fed to the younger prospects, and I think it will ultimately be the most talented prospects against the kind of younger, more fresher veterans who've kind of, you know, they've maybe come into the UFC a bit too early,
Hmm.
rather than they're not cut out for it. It's just that, they've had their mistakes and they've got to go away and rebuild and
Yeah.
come back, which is, they might have done it without the help of the Ultimate Fighter. So yeah, I think it adds a different element to it, and it's certainly interesting. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes and stuff like that. I think Makachev is on the next one or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
Valiev, is it?
I think yeah, his mate is fighting one of Connor's team or something like that. And I think Connor had already kind of spoiled the episode. Do you remember when he was like, when he put up that kind of almost cryptic tweet? He's like, "Well, we've solved the Dagestani style or whatever."
I
You don't
do not
remember that? I
remember that.
remember. Well,
Nah.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, he does say that sort of stuff all the time. He could
yeah,
just be like, he's watched the Habib fight a couple of times in the gym with John Kavanagh, and he's like,
yeah,
oh, wait, if I hadn't have got taken down there,
yeah,
might have won. He
yeah.
solved the
But
Dagestani stuff.
yeah. Who do you? Is there anyone that you like out of it? Is there any prospects that you knew before that you maybe thought that could
Uh,
make a run for it?
only Lee Hammond is the only one I knew, and that was just because I'm sort of, I think, fairly well tapped into the European side of MMA. The rest of the prospects, not familiar with. I mean, in terms of veterans, there are a bunch of names in there that, catch the eye. Brad Katona is a former TUF winner. He's already won TUF
Yeah,
once. And I want to actually quickly check his UFC record because I feel like he, similar to Roberts, didn't have an awful run. And I mean, he's 12-2, and he went 2-2 in the UFC.
which like we've seen people cut for
Yeah,
like what I mean. We've seen people being kept around a lot longer for way worse records. But then, like I was saying, you look like Jason Knight. He had a stint in the BKFC.
yeah.
He really did kind of take a step down. So you've kind of got these. It's in.
Um,
I find it how interesting how they've picked it though. Like how they've decided. Like I wonder kind of what the thought process was in picking the veterans.
um, oh well, yeah, you mean like the actual like
Yeah, like I I
how
I
they went
wonder.
through them?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know because there were like they had like alternates, right? I know what's his name got beaten up by Sean O'Malley. Chris Matinho. He
he's
was
not
an
there anymore.
I think he was only ever an alternate. I think, or maybe he got switched out. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's people who have probably put together win streaks
Yeah,
after the UFC. Brad Katona, going back to him. Bear in mind, in the UFC, one of his two losses was to Merab Dvalishvili.
yeah, you can't really.
Yeah, he lost a decision to Merab, lost a decision to Hunter Azur, left the UFC, went to Brave, where he went on a 4-fight winning streak. I mean, that alone is enough to just get you straight back into the UFC. The thing is, with this TUF season, because McGregor's on it, I think normally a lot of these guys maybe would pass on TUF,
Yeah,
but the extra exposure you're going to get because a name like McGregor and Chandler as well is a big draw. As much as we find him cringy, he's a bigger draw than Ortega, Pena, those
yeah,
sort of people. So it's an opportunity to get your name out there. If you win on, alongside these coaches, it will definitely give a nice boost to your profile. Hunter Azure, who actually beat Bracatona, is also one of the veterans on there. He's not a bad fighter. Good wrestling background. Timur Valiev as well, who I don't think he even had a losing record in the UFC. Or that he had that fight with Raoni Barcelos. He beat Barcelos. Barcelos probably should have beaten him. He got cut off one fight. He is 2-1 in the UFC. He lost to Jack Shaw, beat Barcelos, beat Martin Day. He has a 18-3 record. I mean, champions have those sort of records.
yeah,
That's sensational. He's probably a favorite to win in the bantamweights.
yeah. As you were saying that, I was looking at Jason Knight's record, and see before he had a bit of a he had a 4-fight skid in the UFC, but has
Yeah.
before that beat Alex Caceres and Dan Hooker back to back,
Yeah. Those
which
are
pretty good. It was a while ago, and honestly, after the UFC, it wasn't that impressive. But yeah, like it's I always find it kind of interesting why they keep certain fighters around, and and stuff like that. Because 2-1 is not bad at all, and especially losing to Jack Shore, there's literally no shame in that at all. He's
Absolutely
very
not.
talented. So
He's only got one loss in his record, that's to Ricky Simone. Like Jack Shore is a monster.
yeah,
There's a good few names in the mix. Enough to make it an interesting season. Obviously, episode 1, I'd say I wouldn't call it a failure. At least,
no,
I'm intrigued enough to go back to watch episode 2, which is what you want from a reality TV show, essentially.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably rounds it enough. I don't know if you can hear my dog yelping behind me right now.
Well, I can now, yeah.
Having a bad dream. Yeah, we'll call it there. And if episode 2 is good, we'll be back next week to discuss episode 2, the fallout.